So we'll learn today the last sa'if in Reish Tzadivav about Havdala for women. Before we go to Havdala for women, so we will go over the structure of Havdala. We'll touch a bit Al Siman Reish Tzadivav, and then Reish Tzadizayin, Reish Tzadichet, and then we'll go back to Al Siman. It will help us to understand the laws or the halachot about Havdala for women. Okay, so we know Havdala. We can say maybe it's built out of a few blessings, plus a few psukim in the beginning. So we mentioned already the psukim in the beginning. It's not part of Havdala. It's just an introduction, Simantov. It's an introduction to Havdala and Ashkenazim and Sfaradim. We have different psukim we say. Then we have Borei Pregafen at the beginning. And at the end, we have the bracha of Havdala, of Hamavdil ben Kodesh Lechol ben Or Lechoshech. These two blessings, they are the main part of Havdala. So the Hagafen in the beginning and the Havdala, the bracha of Havdala at the end, they are the main part of Havdala. So we actually, we take the other two blessings of candle and Besamim, or Besamim and candle, and we plant them inside Havdala. Okay, so the main part of Havdala, as we said, is wine or Bechat Hagafen and Havdala. As we know, a few times we mentioned that any blessing of Kedusha, of holiness, you want to show how holiness comes to our world. So you have to hold something in your hand. There's no holiness isn't just an abstract thing. You hold something in your hand. It's not virtual. Once when I was building an A-roof in a Chiloni base, so people were asking me, what am I doing here? What am I doing with the strings? I said to explain to them, you go to the A-roof, and it's like a door, like an opening. And they asked me, can't you do a Wi-Fi A-roof? So anyway, anything of Kedusha, it's something actual. So that's why we have the Havdala, which shows the Kedusha of Shabbat at the end, and we started from something actual. There's two other blessings, which Chazal planted them inside Havdala. Just a moment. Ken, we're there. Okay, so Chazal planted two other blessings inside Havdala. One of them is the bracha for Besamim. We still feel so sad that Shabbat is leaving us, and we need something to bring back life to our soul. And what touches the soul, or the reach, ruach, or like wind, right? Something we don't get physical benefit from it. It's more the appreciation we get from it. The body doesn't grow because of it. But in Hebrew, ruach is something spiritual, and reach, smell, it goes to spirituality. So that's the bracha b'samim. And another bracha we have is for the candle, and that's to remember Adam HaRishon, as we'll get to it later. Okay, so that's the bracha of the candle. Birkat b'samim is birkat nehenim. Even today, if I now take something which has a nice smell, I can say the bracha of b'samim on it. The bracha on a candle is unique only to Motzei Shabbat and Yom Kippur. It's the bracha of the candle. We do it just to remember that the light or fire was created on Motzei Shabbat. So they aren't a real part of Havdala. And the Shulchan Aruch, we'll get to it later. The Shulchan Aruch says we should try and have Besamim, we should try and have a candle. If I don't have a candle, if I don't have Besamim, so I can still do Havdala. I can still do Havdala without the candle and without Besamim. So it's not the main part of Havdala. And even more than that, let's say I want to do Havdala now, and now I don't have any candle. And I know that later I'll have a candle. So I don't have to do all of them together. Okay, so that's the part of Havdala, but the end is an essential part of Havdala.
You could do Havdala most of Shabbat and light the candle.
So the whole point of lighting the candle was to remember that fire was created on Motzei Shabbat. So I can light the candle only on Motzei Shabbat. So after Motzei Shabbat, there's no more candle. And the whole point of the Besamim is to bring back our soul after it leaves on Shabbat. So after Motzei Shabbat, there's no more psamim. But if let's say I didn't do Havdalah on Motzei Shabbat, and I know I'll have wine tomorrow, a person, we mentioned it beforehand. I go back a bit. Aruch in Reish Tzadivav in Seif Gimel, it says, it brings an opinion. If a person doesn't have any wine now, and he knows that tomorrow he will have wine, so he'll do Havdalah tomorrow morning. He'll wait until tomorrow morning and do Havdalah tomorrow morning. And then obviously doesn't do Havdalah on the candle. He can do candle on the night time. He doesn't do Havdalah on the candle on the morning. Okay, so that's just the structure of Havdalah. Now, finally, after we explain that, now we're going to the question about Havdalah for women. We're in the last Saif of Reish Tzadivav. Reish Tzadivav, Saif Chet. And we saw already, we mentioned when we started learning the halachot of Havdalah, whether Havdalah is part of Kiddush or no. We saw the opinion of the Rambam, that how do we sanctify Shabbat? How do we do Kiddush? Wine in the beginning, and at the end, it's a Havdalah, and Kiddush are very similar. According to the Rambam, in that way of thinking, if women are obligated in Kiddush, women are obligated in Kiddush, so they're also obligated in Havdalah. It's the same thing. Same thing. Right?
Where's the question? Why are they obligated?
Why are women obligated in Kiddush? So we mentioned that we learn Kiddush from the word Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadesho. That's a positive mitzvah. It's a mitzvah taseh. And Zachor and Shamor ne'emru b'dibur echad. We said in one dibur. Although one is in Parashat Yitro, what we read next week with Hashem, and one is in Beit Hanan, they are linked to each other because then it was said in one as once. Since women are obligated in negative and not aseh mitzvot, also women are obligated in mitzvot aseh of Shabbat. So women are obligated in all of the mitzvot aseh of Shabbat. So they're obligated in Kiddush. So according to the Rambam, women will be also obligated in Kiddush. Some Rishonim, many Rishonim, hold that Havdalah is rabbinical. How does sanctify Shabbat? At the beginning, that's when we sanctify Shabbat, at the beginning of Shabbat. Just muting everyone because there's a bit of noise here in the background. Okay. Obviously, if someone has a question, they can unmute themselves because it will help us. So many Rishonim hold that Havdalah is a rabbinical mitzvah. Sanctifying Shabbat is only in the beginning, and Havdalah is rabbinical. And now we have a machloket in those Rishonim. When Chazal instituted Havdalah, did he do it exactly like Kiddush? If women are obligated in Kiddush, so they'll also be obligated in Havdalah. Or Chazal said, no, it's like any other time-bound mitzvah that women are exempt from it. So after saying that, let's read the Shulchan Aruch. I read it in Hebrew, Nashim chayavot be'Havdalah, keshem shechayavot Kiddush. So it brings an opinion as just the general opinion, and that's how the Shulchan Aruch is posek, that women are obligated in Havdalah, the same as they are obligated in Kiddush. And the Shulchan Aruch brings also the opinion that argues about it, a book called Orchot Chaim. V'yesh mi shecholek, and some argue and hold that women are not obligated in Havdalah. Now, when the Shulchan Aruch brings two opinions, one in the beginning without any name or without any yesh omrim, that's a general opinion, all the some, and then he brings an opinion with the words v'yesh mi sheomer, some say. So the halacha is like the first opinion. Halacha is like the first opinion, and according to some achronim, the Shulchan Aruch also was a bit maybe concerned about the second opinion, but halacha is like the first opinion. So for Sephardi woman, if a woman needs to do Havdalah, she's obligated exactly like men are obligated. The Rama was a bit more concerned about, second opinion. And the Rama writes, Alken, lo yavdilu le'atzman. Women should not do Havdalah for themselves. Rather, ishmeu Havdalah min ha'anashim. Women should hear the Havdalah from men. Okay, so according to the Rama, Ashkenazi women shouldn't do Havdalah on them. Rather, they should listen to Havdala, hear Havdala from a man. And the reason of that is that women maybe are not obligated in Havdala. It's an argument. And since maybe they aren't obligated in Havdala, so prefer not to say a bracha if they aren't obligated. Okay, so that's the Rama. There's also another reason based a bit on Kabbalah, Shtan, Havan, Adam, that women have the minhag not to drink from the wine of Havdala. And if they do Havdala, they need to drink from the wine. But that's more I wouldn't call it a halachic reason. If a woman needs to drink from Havdala, as we'll see in a moment, she can drink from Havdala. All right, so that brings us a question. If a woman is married, or she has men around her, she has a son who's bar mitzvah, so obviously it's better that the son or the husband or whoever will do Havdalah for her. What happens in two cases? Case A, there's no man here in the area. The woman do Havdalah for herself. Can she drink the wine? Okay, there's no man, can she drink the wine? That's and if she does Havdalah for herself, does she say a blessing on Besamim? It's a real part of Havdalah. And even a harder question, we'll explain soon why, does she say a blessing on a candle? So we have, and we'll see some why it's more of a question. That's the first maybe set of questions. And the other set of questions is if she's married, her husband did Havdalah in shul. Okay, the only husband and the wife. The husband did Havdalah in shul. He was Yotzin Havdalah in shul. He's now coming home. Can the husband do Havdalah for his wife? If she's obligated, so he can do it for Havdalah. If she's not obligated, maybe he can't see another bracha just for her. So these are the two questions which we will discuss now. So the first question is, can a woman do Havdalah for herself? So if she's according to the Shulchan Aruch, before we get to the Rama, let's remind ourselves, the Shulchan Aruch said that women are obligated in Havdalah exactly like men. Okay, so the same as a man can do Havdalah, also a woman can do Havdalah. I mean, there's no question here. Okay, the question is only to the Rama, who was concerned about the other opinion. So the question is for the Rama. And the Rama writes, they shouldn't do Havdalah for themselves, only they should hear it from a man. But what happens if there's no man around? What do they do? Okay, so the Bach says, the Beit Chadash is brought on the side of the two, which is safe. And the Bach says, and the Achronim follow him. Ashkenazi women have a minhag or a custom that even if they aren't obligated in something, they can still say the brach. A very good example. What about lulav? Lulav, or sitting in the sukkah, is a mitzvah which is time, depending on time, right? Many Ashkenazi women have the minhag and halacha that they take a lulav and shake it, and beforehand they say a brach. So based on Tosfot, that's the psak for Ashkenazim. Says the Bach, and that's the meaning from the Mishnah Berurah, that even for women, even for the poskim who say that women are exempt from Havdalah, the same that they can say a bracha on shofar, lulav, they can also say a bracha on Havdalah. Okay. In other words, when there's a mitzvah, when the woman decides to do the mitzvah, she can say a blessing on that. Although she's not obligated, she can, as if make it for her, as if it's a mitzvah which she is obligated. Okay, so that's the Bach, and the poskim follow the Bach, and they even say more than that. If there's no one to drink the wine, so although we brought a reason beforehand last week that a woman shouldn't drink the wine from Havdalah, drink the wine. I mean, there's a mitzvah of Havdalah, drink the wine. Okay, so so we answered the question of Havdalah. What about Besamim? Can the woman say the bracha of Besamim? Well, if a woman wants to eat an apple, does she say a blessing of her eighth? Obviously, yes, she says a blessing of her eighth. If a woman wants to smell something nice, does she say a bracha of minei, atzei, besamim? Yes. It's called Birkat HaNehenin. Whenever we get enjoyment from something, we benefit from something, we say a bracha beforehand. And the same as a woman can say a bracha of Minei Besamim or say Besamim on just a Monday or Tuesday, she can also say it on Motzei Shabbat. There's no problem. Here comes the question. What about the bracha of Borei Meorei Ha'esh? What about the bracha of Borei Meorei Ha'esh? Now that's where I brought the introduction to Havdala. The blessing of Borei Meorei Ha'esh isn't part of Havdala. We can say it by itself. Okay, if a person has a candle and he knows that soon he'll have wine, he can say Ha'esh and say the Havdala. Okay, so on one hand, Chazal did put it together and made a bond from them. On the other hand, they didn't make a real bond from it. And so there's a debate here. Can a woman say the blessing of Borei Meorei Ha'esh? The Mishnah Bura, on his part called Biur Halacha, he debates about it. And he said it's better that women not say the blessing of Borei Meorei Ha'esh. So if a woman is by herself, she shouldn't say the blessing of Borei Meorei Ha'esh. She can say Gefen, she can say Borei Minei Besamim, she can say the main blessing of Havdala, but not Borei Meorei Ha'esh. Okay, that's writes the Biur Halacha.
Why not?
Okay, but many achronim like Igros Moshe and other achronim say that the same as a woman can make for her an obligation of Havdala, also she can make for an obligation of the bracha of Haner. Okay, Borei Meorei Ha'esh. So she can say a blessing also on that. So as the Biur Halacha may debate it a bit, and many people can say, yeah, she can say it inside Havdala, between Hagafen, between Hagafen and the other blessing of Havdala, okay, she can say the bracha. So according to many Ashkenazi poskim, if a woman is alone, she can say all of Havdala in a regular way, just like men. Okay. I think it was around COVID. Someone told me, he was a rabbi, and he said to me, look, that's what my mother does, but I know it's not correct, but nothing to do about it. That's what she does. His father passed away a few years ago, and his mother lived alone. So every Motzei Shabbat, she insisted on Zooming to one of her kids and joining Havdala on Zoom. Why? She's a woman, doesn't do Havdala on her own. Okay, so she insisted on Zooming in to do Havdala. Zooming, I don't mean focusing in. I'm talking about the program we're using now, right? And first was what we learned here. A woman can do Havdala. She can do Havdala, and she can even drink the wine. If there's no one else there, she can drink the wine. Havdala on Zoom, that's a question. How can someone be Yotze on Zoom? Okay, we need to hear a person saying Havdala on Zoom. The voice becomes something digital, and then maybe optical, and then back to digital and electrical, and so it's not a voice saying, it's the computer saying.
And the same question with podcast.
Right. Yeah. So you can't be Yotze on any mitzvah that you have to be Shomea Keoneh, you can't hear a computer. Maybe you can say if there's a mitzvah of Pirsumei Nisa, let's say reading Megillah. So it's true, someone listening to Zoom isn't really doing the mitzvah of reading Megillah. But if he listens to the Megillah on Zoom, so he's part of the Pirsumei Nisa, okay, of advertising Hashem's greater miracles he does for us. So from that aspect of Pirsumei Nisa, maybe it's fine. But being Shomea Keoneh from a computer, what's happening just if we turn the chat to GPT and tell him to talk and say, please recite for me Havdala. He'll do it in the most perfect human voice we can. Okay, so we laugh at it, but it's just you can do it on YouTube, right? Open Havdala on YouTube. So and then it's not hearing someone's voice. Okay, so that's the so obviously if a woman is alone, she should do Havdala. Here comes another interesting question. A man comes from home. He did Havdala in shul. and it's just him and his wife. Now he was Yotze Havdala already. He was Yotze Havdala. Can he do Havdala just for his wife? Let's start from an easier question. A man did Kiddush at home, in Shul. He's coming home now, and his wife wants to hear Kiddush. Or he was at home, his wife was a nurse, she comes home late.
Went somewhere else.
She went somewhere else. Went to the Kiddush club, right? Can he do Kiddush? Okay, we're talking about the nighttime. The daytime, it's easier. Nighttime. He was the Yotze Kiddush already. Can he do Kiddush?
What's that?
In Shul, we're doing Shul, and he was Yotze. Most people aren't Yotze. Let's say he was planning on being Yotze. Let's give an easy example. There's a family, they're at home, they did Kiddush, the wife was out, she's a nurse, and she comes home an hour later. She wants to hear Kiddush. Can the husband do for her Kiddush? And the answer is yes. There's a din of Aravut. We are all tied, bonded. There's a bond between all of us. And if she's obligated in Kiddush, I can help her fulfill the obligation by saying a blessing. So I can help her fulfill the obligation when I say a blessing. They already said it. Yeah. We can look at it as if the fact that my wife didn't say Kiddush, it's as if part of me didn't say Kiddush because I'm obligated to everyone who's obligated. So also we are all one thing, right? If my finger hurts, I can't say that.
Wouldn't it be better if she did this?
Well, some women they do not read. They feel more than want the husband to do it for them. Okay, so that's
It would be better to do this.
yeah,
There's
no bracha levatala. Some prefer that the husband does it for them. It's more maybe an act of love, and okay, that's okay. But about Havdala, here comes the question for Havdala. So a woman might want her husband to do for her Havdala because maybe women aren't obligated. But if women aren't obligated, so there's no arvut, there's no bond. I don't have any responsibility to help someone do something that she's not obligated in. Okay, so if she's obligated in Havdala, obviously I can do Havdala for her, although I heard Havdala in Shul. And if she's not obligated, so maybe I can't do Havdala for her. So that's a debate also in the Mishnah Berurah. Hey, he brings poskim who say, no problem, the husband can do Havdala for her at home. And other poskim say no, okay, she's not obligated, and do for her Havdala at home. And the Mishnah Berurah, he wants to feel that it's a fik b'chale batala, since it may be a question. So maybe it's better not to do for Havdala and let her do Havdala for herself. In such a case, yeah, so she can do it herself, right? So in a case like that, where we have a man who is Yotze already in Havdala and he comes home and he has only his wife at home, so it's better that she does Havdala for herself. If there's kids there, so the father has an obligation of chinuch to educate them, so he can do Havdala for them. Otherwise, it's better that the woman has Havdala for herself. We have another few more minutes, so let's start the siman, the next siman of Besamim, and B'ezrat Hashem, next week we'll finish it, and we'll also try to finish the siman of candles next week. Okay, so we're in Reish Tzadi Zayin, and we're starting Seif Aleph. We mentioned Seif Aleph already. The Shulchan Aruch says the person says a bracha on Besamim if he has, and if he doesn't have, he doesn't need to go now and look for Besamim. So if you have Besamim, great. If not, no. And we mentioned already the reason of Besamim to bring back our what Besamim do we use? That's what Besamim do we use. The general rule of Besamim is that we use something which is done for a good smell, to give a good smell, and not to take a bad smell away. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch here brings an example. We don't use Besamim, which are used for the bathrooms, okay, because the whole purpose of that Besamim, something smelly, is to get the bad smell away. And we use Besamim which are designed or created or made to give us a good smell. Okay, so that's the idea in the eighth bit. I'm skipping a bit about the summing of non-Jewish people. We aren't, so maybe we'll finish the siman today. The Shulchan Aruch here brings the minhag. And that brings us to maybe a more of a wider question, but there's a minhag to say a blessing on Hadass whenever we can. So if we can say the blessing of Hadass. The Mishnah Berurah explains that we aren't talking about just a regular Hadass. We're talking about the Hadass of Sukkot. The Hadass of Sukkot. Why the Hadass of Sukkot? Because we did refer to already one mitzvah by shaking it. On Sukkot, we couldn't smell the Hadass. It's a muktzah for the mitzvah. But so since we did one mitzvah, so we try to do with it other mitzvot. We have this idea a few times. Since I did one mitzvah, let's do with it more. We have, for example, by the Arba Minim, we all burn that. We have the mitzvah of burning the Arba Minim together with the Chametz, right? There's no mitzvah of burning the Arba Minim together with Chametz. The mitzvah is to take the Arba Minim and use them to fulfill a mitzvah which is connected to mitzvah the writer of burning the Chametz. So the same idea we have here of we say a blessing on Hadass whenever we can. We'll just mention one sentence from the Rama. We will continue with Hashem next week. That if it's dry and there's no smell, so we don't say a blessing on Hadass. We'll take something else. Some had the minute of taking one leaf from Hadass and placing it with all the other besamim, and that's way even when the Hadass is dry, we still have other besamim. That brings us to a question which we'll discuss next week. What about besamim, perfume, which the smell remains there, but the besamim itself isn't there anymore? A spray perfume on the body, and the perfume is dry, but the smell still stays there. It's called reach she'ein lo ikar, and that is what Hashem we will learn next week.
The question is, can't smell.
That's